So you're all packed for that trip that you've been dreaming about. You've got your passport, you've got your tickets, and a journal just waiting to be filled with new memories. And you've got this, your favourite fountain pen, the one that feels perfect in your hand and you really don't want to leave behind. But then that thought creeps in. You've heard about the horror stories on the forums, the warnings from other fountain pen enthusiasts about that dreaded incident at 30,000 feet. You picture opening your bag to find an inky explosion that's ruined your clothes and the rest of your flight. Well, what if I told you that the fear is almost entirely avoidable? What if I told you that that fear was almost entirely avoidable? What if a simple set of rules, a little bit of science, and some practical know-how could guarantee your favourite pen arrives safe and sound, ready to write when you land? Well, stick around because today we're going to conquer that fear of flying with fountain pens once and for all. So what's really going on up there in the skies that makes a perfectly behaved pen suddenly act out? Well, it's not your pen's fault, it's just physics. When you're on the ground, the air pressure inside your pen is the same as the pressure in the cabin. But as the plane climbs, the cabin pressure is lowered. Have you ever noticed how that bottle of water that you bought at the airport inflates to double its size during the ascent and looks like it's about to burst? Well, that's because there's air trapped inside the bottle that's expanding as the pressure outside drops. And your fountain pen is just like that bottle. More specifically, it's the air inside your pen's reservoir, whether that's a cartridge or a converter or the barrel itself. That pocket of air starts to expand, and there's only one way out, through the feed and through the nib. And if there's a nice pool of ink sitting between where the air is and its exit, it's going to push that ink right out ahead of it. That's the problem. It's not some big mystery. It's a predictable reaction. And because it's predictable, it's preventable. The secret to this isn't finding some magical leak-proof fountain pen. It's about managing the air inside the pen itself. And this brings us to the single most important rule for flying with fountain pens. This one trick solves 90% of all potential problems, and it's beautifully simple. Fly with either your pens completely empty and cleaned out, or completely full. So let's break that down. First, a completely full pen. Well, if your pen's reservoir is topped all the way up with ink, there's virtually no air inside that's left to expand. And no expanding air means no force pushing the ink out. A full pen is a happy, stable pen. It might sound backwards, but it's hands down the most reliable way to travel with a pen that you want to use right after you land. Now, the second one is a completely empty pen. Now, this one's a little bit more obvious because if the pen is clean and dry, there is absolutely no ink to leak out anywhere. Just potentially a little bit of water. This is the only 100% guaranteed foolproof method. If you like to switch inks a lot, or you don't mind taking 5 minutes to set up your pen at your destination, this is a fantastic stress-free way to go. And the only thing that's going to come out of this is the water that you've left in it. The real danger zone is the partially filled fountain pen. A pen that's half full with ink has a lot of air to expand. That's a big air pocket and it can cause a serious ink burp when the pressure changes. So before you fly, just make a choice, either top it up or clean it out. Don't leave it to chance. Okay, we've got the theory. Now for the practical stuff. Here's a simple checklist to make sure you and your pens have a smooth journey. Number one, and this is a big one because I know the video is called Taking Your Favourite Fountain Pen on Holiday, but if your favourite fountain pen's a rare or vintage model or a priceless family heirloom, maybe just let it enjoy a vacation at home, because travel comes with risks, loss, theft, damage, and you don't want to bring any pen that you'd be heartbroken to lose. Instead, Think about choosing a reliable travel favourite, something that's tough, it's not too expensive to replace, and it's compact. You might also want to think about appearances because a flashy, expensive looking pen can attract the wrong kind of attention in a busy city. Number 2, let's say you're taking your pen fully inked. Just a few minutes of preparation can make all the difference. And to get a truly full fill or get rid of as much air as possible, especially with a cartridge converter or a piston filler, try this trick. Just fill the pen normally and then point the nib up. Give it a couple of taps to get the ink to settle to the bottom, and then slowly twist the piston on the converter or on the piston filler just to push out any tiny air bubbles that always get trapped inside the top. You want to do this until you start to see ink coming out of the feed, just a tiny bit, and then just wipe off any ink that comes out, and then you can dip that back into the bottle and fill it up again, or you could actually leave it like this. So partially filled, but with as much air removed as possible. Now you've got a truly full or airless fill. Now, if you're going to fly with an empty pen, don't just squirt the ink out. Give it a proper flush with water until it runs fully clean. A pen with a few drops of clean water is much less of a mess than a few drops of ink. On to tip number 3, and during takeoff and landing, when the pressure changes the most, gravity really is your best friend. So always store your pen with a nib pointing up, because this simple trick means that if any air does expand, it will bubble up harmlessly to the top of the pen. The ink, meanwhile, stays at the bottom, pulled down by gravity away from the nib. You can always keep it in a pen case in the seat back pocket, or just clipped on your jacket, or safely upright in a bag. Just don't forget to grab it when you get off the plane. And tip number 4, the just-in-case bag, because even after all of this, a little peace of mind goes a long way. Just pop your pens into a Ziploc bag. Think of this as cheap insurance. In the very unlikely event that a small leak does happen, it's contained and your carry-on is safe. It takes zero effort and it removes that last little bit of worry. While any pen can fly safely with these tricks, some pens are just built for it. So if you travel a lot, you might want to look at a pen designed with travel in mind. First up, we've got cartridge converter pens, and these are probably the easiest to manage because you can fly with the pen empty and you can just pop in a fresh cartridge when you arrive. The cartridges themselves are sealed and generally handle pressure changes really well. You can also carry a bunch of these without worrying about liquid restrictions or spills. Next up, we have the gold standard for frequent flyers, vacuum fillers. Pens like the Pilot Custom 823 are loved by travellers because they have a shut-off valve. When you tighten the knob at the back, it completely seals the ink reservoir from the feed. It basically turns your pen into a tiny sealed little ink bottle, making sure that leaking during the flight is almost impossible. Just make sure the valve is shut off before you board, and when you land, unscrew the knob a couple of turns, and you're ready to write. On the other hand, the one filling system to be wary of is the standard eyedropper pen, because the whole barrel is the ink tank and they can actually hold a lot of air when they're not full, making them much riskier. The exception to this would be the Japanese style eyedroppers like those from Opus 88, which, similar to vacuum fillers, have that clever little shut-off valve system built into the pen. So you and your pen have landed safely, but here are a few final tips for your trip. When it comes to ink, leave that big glass bottle at home. You just don't need 50 milliliters of ink for a week, and you definitely don't want to risk a broken bottle in your luggage. Instead, put a small amount of ink in a plastic travel inkwell. Take one of these plastic bottles or even a sample vial, or even easier, just stick to cartridges and cartridge converter pens. And always, always pack a backup. A simple ballpoint or gel pen can be a lifesaver for filling out those landing cards, which are often printed on glossy paper that fountain pens just hate. As for the ink itself, your trip might not be the best time to experiment with, let's say, Bay State Blue. So stick with something that's reliable, well behaved, something that you know is easy to clean, just in case you need to do a quick flush in the hotel sink. And finally, have a think about your surroundings. A good pen case isn't just good for looks, it protects your pens from bumps and drops and keeps them nice and secure. Now, if these tips have helped you feel more confident about packing your pens for your next adventure, a like on the video would be fantastic. And if you want more content to help you enjoy this amazing hobby, please think about subscribing because it really helps the channel grow. Now, I really want to hear from you guys. What's your absolute go-to travel pen? Or if you're brave enough to share, do you have any travel leak horror stories? Let us know in the comments below. So there you have it. The fear of flying with fountain pens is mostly just a myth based on misunderstanding of some simple physics. Traveling with your favorite fountain pens isn't about being paranoid, it's just about being prepared. So let's do a quick recap of the 4 golden rules. So fly with your pen either completely empty or completely full. Store your pen's nib up during takeoff and landing. Choose a pen that's reliable, not irreplaceable. And number 4, use that Ziploc bag for an extra layer of security. I think that following these simple steps will change your fountain pen from a source of anxiety on holiday into what should be a joyful tool for capturing your thoughts, documenting your journey, and connecting you to the world in a more meaningful way. Well, happy holidays, happy travels, and I'll see you next time.